Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grip Lock, Foundation Disc Golf's weekly podcast. I'm Hunter, joined again by Trevor. No Connor this week, but this is the last time. Well, I can't say last time. This is the last time ever that we're not joined by Connor. But no, next week we should all be back in the same place.
Should be.
Finally.
Pending any disasters.
That's true. You can never count your eggs before they hatch. We're gonna start off with a little Patreon question of the week, and then get you caught up on everything that happened last week with the Natalie Ryan case. Go into the preserve, do a little Trevor's trivia, talk about some media plans that got announced, and then finally update our Grip Lock power rankings.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
We get ready to dig in.
So let's start with the Patreon question of the week. This has been actually fun the past few weeks. If you're not sure what this is, basically we have our Heiser Club, and every week we have a Q&A podcast on our Patreon. You can find it on patreon.com/Foundation Disc Golf. You can actually get a 30-day free trial if you want to just watch. You can binge all the Q&A stuff, exclusive videos, discount codes, a bunch of fun stuff, and there's a 30-day free trial available. But the past few weeks, obviously, different ones of us have been out of town. And so, like, last week was the first time I heard the question. Last week, I was on the mailbag by myself. So this will be the first time you hear this question.
If you ever wanted to suggest a Grip Lock topic, this is your best way to get it in. Honestly, we may even just have to start creating a separate question submission just for the Grip Locked one, so people have like a fair chance to like do the fun question and then like the one that might get on Grip Locked. I don't know. I
kind of like I might just only have fun questions to pull from.
That's true.
This was an interesting one from Derek Rashke. He was not the first question again this week, by the way.
Derek, you are really slacking.
Which, to be fair, I did not put it up anywhere close to a normal time. I think I threw it up like Wednesday afternoon.
I was like, I was impressed because I had a reminder on my phone to put up the prompt on Wednesday because I was like, I don't know if they'll remember to do that. Like, they don't ever do that. It's my thing. And then I went to look and you had put it up. So I was good on you.
But Derek Rashke said, if Innova was erased from disc golf history, what do you think would be different about disc golf? Who would be the top brand?
Wow. Very interesting question.
So how I took this question, you can take it a different way, is it includes Dave Dunapace's erase from disc golf.
Oh, I mean, yeah, good point. Wow, yeah, ooh, there are some serious implications. Because, if you're just thinking from a brand standpoint, but you can't really think of it just that way.
So that's why I took Dave Dunapace also erased from disc golf history.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to say, so if Dave Dunapace never exists, nobody, eventually, I do believe eventually the disc would have got innovated. I mean, darn, it's hard not to say, like, disc golf may never have even gotten anywhere without Dave Dunapace. Now, Steady Ed was pretty set on the game. Like, he was driving the game. He created the PDGA, right? So, that was... And there was still, like, that grassroots thing. But, like, Innova took the disc to the next level, which really turned it into a sport. I do think that they probably would have arrived at beveled edge technology just because it made sense for the sport. But if they didn't, then I think the sport would have either fizzled out or it would have stayed a park game and very casual park game and never caught on if they wouldn't have gotten to beveled edge. If they would have, I think a lot of that would have fallen on DGA to arrive at. And I think the DGA would probably be a lot bigger right now.
That's what I said.
They could I don't want to say they could replace Innova because, ultimately Dave Dunapace had a pretty insane vision for the sport. And, like, I don't want to discredit what he's done. But you could argue that, DGA certainly would have a lot larger market share. And they probably, and this all just depends, though, on, like, would they have thought we should bevel the edges of these discs and make these things go further. I mean, somebody would have thought it up. You could almost even argue that maybe somebody else would have just done it. I don't know.
I said, like, of the modern companies, DGA would be the most logical. Well, at first I said...
That's like the easiest conclusion.
I said the easiest answer would just be Discraft because of the current marketplace. But going back, Steady Ed, DGA would have been the logical next one. But it'd be interesting to see, Gateway. Like, would they have come... Yeah. Would they have come up with a different disc technology?
If Gateway wasn't beefing with Innova back then, dude, who knows? I don't know. That's the other thing too. Is like, what would they have turned the disc into?
Well, also on the mailbag, I couldn't think of the word bevel, and I kept using the word blunt by accident, which is not at all what disc golf went to. It was not blunt edge technology.
Yeah,
it was definitely bevel.
I don't know.
But that was an interesting question.
You take away Dave Dunapace from the sport, and nothing great happens.
No,
we certainly really needed him At least from my understanding. I know some people don't like Dave Dunn.
He was at USDGC last year. He was the person in disc golf that I was the most excited to meet.
He's a legend, man.
Yeah, he was. It was very.
It'll be a sad day when Davey D isn't around anymore.
We're not gonna worry about. We're not gonna think about that day.
I wonder if they'll put his. You know how they did the ashes in the disc thing for.
Well, I think that was Steady Ed's wishes.
Steady Ed. It was in his will. Yeah, and you can still buy those discs to this day. I think they're like still on their site, which is like that. Just if that doesn't tell you something about the disc golf collectors market. Like, and how much people don't really care about history in our sport yet. I still hold on to hope that eventually they will. But like right now, the collectors market is all about like what's the newest thing with a crazy stamp that's not about like history. I hope that changes. But like I'm pretty sure you can still go to DGA's website and buy a disc that contains the ashes of the founder of our sport. Could you imagine if Michael Jordan died and his ashes were put in some playing card? People would be losing their minds. Like they would be buying them up. They'd be worth millions of dollars. Like that's what I'm saying. Like it's crazy to me.
I'm trying to find the Steady Ed
Memorial disc set. Still there, right?
Limited number of discs, and they were given to friends. Sale proceeds going to 501c3.
Add to cart.
Yeah, I can add to cart.
And they're $200 for 2 discs.
There's a 2 disc. I think you can get a 1 disc too.
But these contain the ashes of the founder of our sport.
This comes with a driver and putter.
Somewhere in a warehouse, there's a stack of discs containing the remains of Steady Ed. What like that to me just doesn't really click. Like
someone needs to write a like fiction book about like.
I think we need to
like a haunting of the DGA warehouse.
I think that like everybody in foundation needs, if you can get like $100 one of them, we need to all chip in so that we can own one of those and like do our part.
It is fascinating
because it's almost like insulting.
I wonder how many they made.
Yeah, how much?
Well, because like
who had to be the person
if you put
to be like taking the teaspoon. And
well, but that's what I'm saying is how do we know how many ashes are per disc? This is getting realistic.
I don't want to be disrespectful to Steady Ed.
No, but that's what I was more saying. Like I wonder, it could have been like an obscene amount ran because it's just spread out in 5,000-10,000 discs or something.
I don't know.
Let's get back to business.
Crazy though.
So post grip lock.
You're welcome for the advertising, DGA.
Yeah, if you want a piece of disc golf history,
that check.
If you want a piece of disc golf history, I just looked. They are still available. So discgolf.com. They also own that URL, discgolf.com. That might be their most valuable asset. Is discgolf.com.
I'll tell you, it's pretty valuable.
So post grip lock, pre the preserve, a Minnesota judge ruled in favor of Natalie Ryan, who would go on to compete in the preserve. This was similar to what happened at the OTB.
The same law pretty much.
Yeah.
Where their protected class includes gender identity.
But the key difference here, it seemed that the Pro Tour's lawyers didn't feel like after the original ruling they had anything to file for an emergency appeal on as they did in California.
Yeah. Their main point of contention was, again, like they were saying that it wasn't timely, like, because once again, these things are getting filed. In my mind, it has to be. Well, I don't want to say it has to be. I'm assuming that there's some timing involved with Natalie's team here.
Oh, absolutely.
Like we're gonna file these emergency, and like the Pro Tour's defense was like saying that it wasn't timely. Like there was no.
Well, they
reason.
used that here again, and the judge said the PDJ and DGPT do raise a valid point regarding the timeliness of the filing of Ryan's motion based on when she knew of the PDGA's new policy and the impact it would have on her ability to compete at the Preserve Championship. However, this court is not in a position to determine, nor will it engage in speculation regarding any tactical or strategic decision-making surrounding the timing of the motion. Even if the court acknowledges the suspect nature of the timeline, such suppositions are not fatal to Ryan's claim.
Yeah, I think that's just a court rule, I guess, or like something in the legal proceedings where they're not allowed to tie that in, I guess.
So the PDJ and the Pro Tour, this is from the Ultra Road article, PDJ and Pro Tour could opt to file for an emergency appeal as they did in California, but they'd appear less likely to succeed. In California, there was a clear jurisdictional argument in their favor that the lower court ignored. That jurisdictional issue is not an issue here in Minnesota. So I think that was the key as to why the Pro Tour didn't go on.
Yeah.
So the Pro Tour in a statement wrote, this motion filed against the PDGA and the DGPT has now been granted by the court and will allow her to compete in the FPO division at the Preserve Championship. The DGPT disagrees with this decision, but will comply with the order, and the event will continue as planned, and that's exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. What this did spark, however, was we're going to call it a press conference.
That was crazy. What it was.
But this led to a press conference of sorts. It was actually live streamed on Brody Smith's Instagram.
And Kat's Instagram. And I typically...
And I believe it was recorded. I don't think that the post-produced, however you want to call that, version has been released yet.
I think you can watch it on at least Kat's Instagram.
But Kat's Instagram, I think she actually posted it, yeah.
Yeah.
So Ultiworld tweeted, a group of FPO players is now live on Brody's Instagram and at the Preserve giving a press conference protesting Natalie Ryan competing at the event in the court ruling in Minnesota. So we have seen players slowly speak up. We saw, obviously, the Stockton Declaration. I forget exactly what the whole thing was called, but many of the women that signed that were present here. One notable person missing, and we've kind of heard as to why, post was Kristen Tatar. I saw a lot of people pointing that out, but Kristen made her statement on Tour Life, on the Tour Life podcast. It might be easier for me to find this on my phone, but she made her statement.
Did she make an additional time or statement as well, or
no? So she made the post that she made on Instagram was essentially explaining her absence. It wasn't. That's not what the whole post was for, but in a roundabout way, it did.
I didn't see this.
So we'll get into the press conference in a second, but Kristen Tatar said, "My last tournament on U.S. soil before Worlds is over, finishing second behind Katrina, who was on fire this weekend. Congrats. I'm very happy to head home for a couple of days, but before that, I wanted to say that the last 2.5 weeks have been quite stressful, but also liberating in a way. It started with me opening up about what I think about trans women playing in FPO on the Tour Life podcast. When sharing my opinions, I know I could often look cool, calm, and collected, but to say that this has not affected me in a stressful way would be a lie. Talking about a sensitive subject in another language away from home and loved ones has been hard for me."
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So this led me to delete all social media apps earlier in the week when the same issue was brought to daylight again with the Preserve Championship. For my own mental wellness, I decided to stay away from the flood of information until the completion of the tournament in the hopes of helping to draw attention to what is important now and what I'm here for, disc golf. That being said, I hope we all reach common grounds and that will give peace to both parties. Now I'm ready to pack my stuff up and head home, but before that, me and I forget how to pronounce her name, Katie Tati, I believe, will celebrate my birthday tomorrow, which was today. So happy birthday, Kristen.
Happy birthday, Kristen.
In Chicago. Let me know what there are fun things to do over there. So that's kind of Kristen was basically like, I've said my piece. I just want to get back to just playing disc golf. So that's why
I never thought about, imagine, and Kristen has good English. Like, let's be clear. She obviously speaks English well, but one of the biggest things, like when you are speaking English as a second or third or whatever language, is like not knowing the exact correct words to use to communicate things. Can you imagine trying to like go over your complex opinions on a social matter like that?
Well,
and
also
it's not your first language. That's terrifying.
English is obviously my first language,
and it's still terrifying.
There are so many intricacies in what is okay to say and what's offensive to say.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of people can read through it and hear your intentions behind what you're saying, and it's more so the way you say something than what you say.
Doesn't mean that's the way they approach it when they come after you on social media.
True. Yeah, but I mean, to be answering interview questions in a foreign language about a topic like this, where the word choice is so important. I can't even imagine. That's terrifying. But anyway, so if you want to hear more on Kristen's opinion, you can watch the Tour Life podcast. I believe Kristen also signed the Stockton Declaration, so that also kind of tells you Kristen's opinion. But she was notably not here. Who was here was a big chunk of the FPO field and also a decent bit of MPO players standing behind them. Notably, I believe I saw Gannon Burr, Isaac and Ezra Robinson, Chandler Kramer, Alden Harris, Nico LaCastro, Ezra Aderhold. I'm sure I'm missing some other ones.
Those are the ones I saw, I think.
And they were standing behind the group of women having this press conference in support of them. And Ultiworld tweeted out a few quotes from this press conference here, and I'll just pull a few of them. Katrina. So basically, several women got up and spoke, explaining their stance, why they believe Natalie Ryan should not be able to compete in FPO and trans women in general. And, kind of just defended, in their view, defended the fair competition in the FPO field is how they worded it. So starting with Katrina Allen, she said, "We are standing here for fair competition and we ask the disc golf community to hear our voices and hear our statements." Sarah Hokum said the creation of Title IX created a protected sex-based space that allowed for women to be included in sports. And she went on multiple times, and I thought this was a very interesting outlook because Sarah Hokum, as Jennifer Allen echoed similar things, was talking about like when they first got into disc golf, part of the reason they traveled to play was just to find other FPO players. Sure. Because when they were playing their local scenes, they were the only one.
Very true.
Which that just kind of shows farther back, like Sarah Hokum's coming at this from years and years of experience. And then Hokum said, unfortunately, the social dynamic of this issue has effectively silenced and canceled voices. Hokum also said the science is in. 13 recent studies have shown that transgender women retain athletic advantages even after hormone replacement therapy. Trans women may fall below performance standards of the average man, but they are certainly above the standards of the average woman. Hokum also said, I am one of a large number of FPOs who have to deal with playing against Natalie Ryan in their mental game, and we can no longer be silent. And then she went on to say, a little bit later, if trans women can compete, female sports will become meaningless and players will step away from sports. The female protected division should not be forced to pay reparations for a society that treats others poorly. And then there's a few. So Jennifer Allen spoke, Kat Murch got up and spoke, Rebecca Cox got up and spoke, Jessica Weiss, Kona Montgomery, and then Katrina Allen and Sarah Hokum got back up to wrap it all up and put it together. And these are kind of like their closing statements, if that makes sense. So Katrina Allen said, this has been a behind-the-scenes fight. We're trying to keep this peaceful and share our feelings. A big thank you to the Pro Tour and the PDGA for keeping things as civil as possible. Sarah Hokum said, we're leading with love. We're not trying to attack anyone. And Katrina Allen echoed and said, instead of sending a hateful comment to the other side, please uplift us this weekend. That would be the most useful and helpful. And that was kind of the wrap-up. This was not met well in the disc golf, in the opposing disc golf world. It was met very well in people that agreed. I think neutral people was also met well with, because if you watched, if you listened, they were arguing for what they felt is right, for fair competition for themselves, and they were trying to provide facts. They were getting emotional because they felt that the fair competition in their division is being attacked, and they're trying to stand up not only for themselves, but also what this could mean for future generations of female professional disc golf. And they're standing up for what they believe is protecting that division, which I think at the end of the day, like I've said on a Grip Block before, that's what everyone's trying to do, is protect female disc golf. There's just differing opinions on what does that mean. Mm-hmm. And at no point did I hear them in this attack Natalie Ryan or the LGBTQ community. I didn't hear them attack anyone. I heard them trying to defend themselves and say, like, literally at one point they were saying, this is just about the FPO division, and the science basically points to there being an advantage for trans women coming into FPO. And I think the end statement there of Sarah Hokum and Katrina Allen wrapped that up. This was not met well from the other side. It was seen as very hateful.
The live chat was...
yeah, and Brody was getting dragged into it as well when... Brody has given his platform to people on both sides, and I don't think he has any. His podcast and his platform is pretty wide open to whoever wants to speak. I mean, he gave Paige Pierce did a full interview and in it fought for Natalie Ryan and trans women's rights on Tour Life podcast, and he gave the same platform to Kristen Tatar, who fought for the FPO. I don't think this group of FPO women really goes by anything. Like, I don't think they have a specific group, if that makes sense. Like, they don't...
Yeah, the opposition.
Yeah, sure. But so Brody's given his platform to both sides, but this side, I mean, was trying to... obviously, it aligns with Brody haters as well. Yeah,
it's like...
and they were just trying to smear him on Twitter.
It's like circular reasoning. They're basically going after Brody, being like, you're giving your platform to enhance a false narrative, when it's like, well, why is that narrative? Like... That narrative's only false to you. Yeah, right. It's not false
side,
to them. Like,
the other side, your narrative's false.
Yeah, it's very one-sided, like circular reasoning. It's frustrating to see that, like, when, like, clearly there's a huge part of this sport. No matter how you think about this, there's a huge part of the FPO division that feels this way. They're absolutely allowed to speak out about it in a peaceful way.
They did so in a very respectful and peaceful way.
Yeah. So, like, it's really sad to see people just poking at them, and it's like, come on, guys. Like, I don't understand. Here's the bottom line is, clearly now what we have, and we've known about this for weeks now, but we have a pretty heavy, I don't know if I want to say majority, but a pretty good majority of like the known FPO players.
Yeah.
You definitely have a lot of them, a hearty percentage of them, and an important percentage of them. You have them believing one thing. You have probably a good bit of players that are neutral, and then some that are on the other side of things. But they're upset, and there's a lot of people who are on their side that are like, well, you should just boycott the event. Why are you playing the event? Well, it's not that simple. Obviously, there's the monetary side, like they need to make their living. But there's also, what about those young girls that bought tickets to go watch Katrina Allen play in Minnesota for the only time all year, and then she just doesn't play? Like there are some other things at stake too. And then, you obviously have the Pro Tour who disagrees with what happened, but as far as the ruling, not what Katrina Allen and them did. But their hands are tied. So moving forward, it's a little complicated because like you have this large group of players that are upset. The Pro Tour's hands are tied. Now, obviously, we also know is that this is only taking place in 2 states with certain legislation. If that legislation, well, how's that word? Legislation. There we go. I have tongue tied right now. If that doesn't spread, if that stays contained in these 2 states, then you'd have to imagine the Pro Tour won't revisit them. Because
it's a very interesting one.
As far as I know, or maybe I don't know. If you have that many players speaking out, the Pro Tour frustrated in decisions, they didn't want those decisions to be made. You probably imagine that if it's only 2 states, and it stinks because like California is a big part of disc golf. The Preserve is always somewhere that they like to visit, I think. That's a bummer. But if it's only 2 states, then you do have a hard time believing that they would go back. If that's their only opportunity, I think it's going to be interesting to see if like, especially once the season ends, if this like goes further on like a large scale case. But if state by state rulings is the only way this works, and if there is only 2 states, I don't know, because we had kind of predicted Minnesota would be the next one.
Yeah, because it was around the time of the California of the OTB Open that
they had
the precedent, the powerlifting case
right?
happened.
And so I don't know if there's anything else. I mean, it'll come up again when Throw Pink happens because it's an A tier. So who knows? What that I'm expecting. Something similar to this. I don't know if they'll go as far as boycotting. And not playing the event, you'll probably see more, wearing the matching shirts, but there's only so much you can do. I don't know. It's very...
Well, the weird thing is you're raising awareness in a sport that the governing body agrees with you.
Yeah, that's exactly
right.
The
weird line.
The governing... They are getting their opinion out, but the governing body agrees. So therefore, it's almost like where does that message get to that actually something happens? Because like... It's not changing opinions, I don't think. I think it's just
opinions are set in stone.
It's pretty much like politics at these days where, people are voting blue or they're voting red. They're pretty set. I won't say that it's not changing them at all because, that's not a neutral. That's not fair. I'm sure there are some people who are sympathizing with them that maybe wouldn't have. Maybe there's people that are switching the other way. I don't know. But I would say a large percentage of people are pretty set on what they think about the situation. So where does that message go and what does this do down the line? Because, it's like the Pro Tour, they agree. So like usually when you have a player protest, it's regarding a decision made by the governing body, and that's not the case. So I'd just be interesting to see. I have a feeling that this is probably going to boil down. This is not going to go away. This is probably going to boil down to a much larger court case eventually. And who knows how far it could get. I mean, because like when you talk about, stuff like this sets precedent for other sports. It's like it's interesting stuff. So I don't know.
In all of this, I've always tried to just remain neutral, just give you the facts as we've found them, and just let you keep you updated. But in doing so, obviously, we hear a lot from both sides. And one thing that it kind of upset me this weekend, and I was not surprised by, I guess, because its emotions were high in all around, and things get said that people sometimes the truth comes out of how someone genuinely feels when feelings get high, and other times they get pushed and they say something they don't genuinely mean. But when this was first coming, the first thing we heard was, well, look at the science and let science decide. And I agreed with that. But as Sarah Hokum pointed out, and as I found, like, there is a lot of science and some even peer-reviewed science that points to there being an advantage. So there's that. And then other people were saying, well, a bunch of men are talking about this issue. Let's wait till we hear from the FPO field. But then we hear from the FPO field, and it's like, if what you're waiting for doesn't agree, then people are getting upset. But it's like, you heard from the FPO field, a vast majority, especially of top-end competing FPO players, but then they don't agree with you, and so now you get really upset at them. And I saw, obviously we've seen some very hateful, uncalled for things said in the direction of Natalie Ryan all season long for years. Uncalled for. I will never stand by that. No one should be attacking Natalie Ryan on a personal level, any way, shape, or form. But the same people that are getting upset at people attacking Natalie Ryan were then coming after Kona Panis and coming after Katrina Allen and coming after Kona Montgomery, I'm sorry. We're coming after them and saying awful things in
oh yeah, that's brutal.
It was equally disgusting. And it's like, at some point I'm sitting back and I'm trying to like just watch both sides because I'm trying to report on what's going on. And it's like both sides are yelling at a different version of themselves in the mirror, calling each other names and stuff, when I'm like, you're doing the same thing. So both sides take a step back. Both of sides are being very hateful, and emotions are getting high. Listen to what people are saying. Listen to what people are saying behind it. I'm not talking about the random one-off comments. Those aren't ever going to go anywhere. But I'm saying listen to the players that are being directly involved with this, Natalie Ryan and the FPO field and other players. Natalie Ryan's obviously at the forefront of this. Listen to them and listen to their heart behind it. Listen to where they're coming from and try to be reasonable. If you can't do that, then sure, go, comment whatever you want and be a hateful person and be miserable all day. You're welcome to do that. But if you listen to what's going on behind it, you'll find that really at the end of the day, I think a lot of people want the same thing as you, and they just have a different viewpoint or a different worldview that's leading them to this end result. And you throwing hateful comments at these women doesn't exactly help the situation at all. It was kind of gross to see. It's been gross to see towards Natalie Ryan, and it was equally gross to see towards these FPO players that stood up here. It was very, very interesting and frustrating weekend.
Pretty crazy drama in the disc golf world these days, I'll tell you.
Now, what happened at the Preserve result-wise, I didn't expect Katrina Allen to actually do it. I didn't expect Katrina Allen to actually win because
what the heck, Katrina?
There's a history book of the entire season to say she's not going to do it. But on the preview show, I did say she's going to be coming into this week with a chip on her shoulder because she has been one of the most vocal about this, and this is all kind of coming to a head here.
Yeah.
And I was like, she's going to come in with a chip on her shoulder. She stood up for what she believed in here. That's either going to be a very liberating process and she's going to play very free and we're going to see Katrina Allen go off, or that's going to be a very restricting process and all the outside noise, because the hate was amplified, all the outside noise is going to crush her. It seemed to be a very liberating process. She came out, and this was a Katrina Allen. The results in FPO, we had Katrina Allen win, Kristen Tatar second, Holland Hanley third. This is a Katrina Allen we haven't seen this year, right?
Well, she won Vegas. We haven't seen since Vegas.
Yeah. Okay. It just feels like we haven't seen it this year.
Most of the year we have not
Very
seen
solid
it,
point. And even in Vegas, I feel like this Katrina Allen played better than she did in Vegas. Maybe I just have the rest of the season to cloud my memory.
Yeah, she played pretty well in Vegas,
well, Vegas was Paige or Kristen there. I don't think that either of them were.
That's a long time
Kristen
ago.
Was not. I don't think Paige was either. Regardless, Katrina Allen played very solid.
Might have been a fake win
this weekend. Kristen and Paige both in the field.
Yeah.
And her putt was on the first two rounds mainly, but even the final round she hit some putts she had to hit.
She needed to.
But the first two rounds her putt was there.
Yeah.
And that is what always has been holding her back so far this season.
I mean, honestly, her putt has made a lot of strides in the past few years. I think that it's definitely still kind of streaky. But really, like, her strength has been throwing, and she just wasn't even throwing the disc well throughout the year. Because, like, even if you're not putting well in the FPO division, you can get away with 60% C1X, and if you're throwing it well, you can still, you can even win some days. She definitely looked like the cat we would normally expect to see, through plenty of good shots. Now, that final round, obviously it's pretty much her. And then Kristen was trailing by a pretty significant amount going into that final day. What was she up going into that final round?
Three.
Was it just
because they tied the final day?
Yeah. So she ended up, and she goes up as much as 5, I think, early in that round, I believe.
Yes, right there, through hole 3.
Yeah, so, she had a chance to pull away. Now, she tried to give it away a little bit. Kristen pulls back in. Kat has a really bad 3-putt from like really close after, getting kind of big putted by Kristen.
Kristen took 5 strokes in 3 holes.
Yeah,
6, 7, 8.
She took the lead, I believe, Kristen.
I think that tied it. I think that tied it up through
They were
8.
tied at 19, I think. And then, I was very excited to see, okay, let's see if Kristen can pull it back together. She didn't really have to. Now, she didn't continue to fall apart, but Kristen then, after getting back in it, proceeded to just cough it up over the next 4 holes, which was kind of disappointing because I was like, all right, let's get a good finish here. But, Kat stopped the bleeding, as she took that double and then, followed it up with a clean finish to that round. So props there. But, man, yeah, Kristen really threw it away. Moving down the stretch. Not sure if it would have been enough to win, but it was kind of just a bummer from a spectator standpoint. I've seen that a few times out of Kristen this year, where like I think actually the last time it happened. Are you sure she wasn't at Vegas? That was Missy that did it at Vegas, but I think Kristen's done this once earlier this year where she like pulls it back. You're like, all right, because like a lot of times FPO, the field not being quite as deep, you see this happen where like we're almost depending on like a Kristen to like make things interesting as a spectator, and then she gets it back and we're like, here we go, and then like very quickly, just like over the next few holes, like it was the very next hole, I think was hole 11 where she chucked it OB, and I was kind of like,
they had 2 holes where they both birdied 9 and 10, but then 11 she bogeyed, 12 she bogeyed. Yeah. She lost from 11 to 14. She lost 4 strokes, and she lost by 3
she
overall.
Lost it right back. So, but yeah, I mean Kristen, she can struggle with some inconsistencies through some good shots, but then just some pretty poor efforts down the stretch there.
Yeah, I was trying to find this tweet from Statmando because this was fascinating. So this was going into the final day. Katrina Allen holds a 3-stroke lead heading to the championship Sunday in Minnesota over a charging Kristen Tatar. Tatar is 0 and 16 when trailing by 3+ strokes heading to the final round.
That kind of backs up what I was thinking. Is like I feel like Kristen is very good at like being down like 6, getting back in it, and then immediately as soon as she gets back into it, like I don't know what happens there.
She is good at playing with a lead, but apparently like stats show when she's down
0 and 16
she is not able to come back.
That's almost head scratching because like in the FPO division there is a lot of opportunity.
What was she trailing by in Waco? Because Waco
must have been 2.
Ella Hansen was running away with it, remember?
Must have been 2.
Or maybe Ella Hansen just pulled ahead in the final round and gave it back. Because this is going into the final round.
Yeah, I feel like I see that a lot where Kristen like is never, and clearly I guess the stats, she's not able to complete the comeback. I don't really know why. It's
a weird one.
When Kristen starts playing bad for no reason, it really confuses me. Like all of a sudden, she'll just start missing like 25 footers and like throwing just some really bad shots, like up shots and stuff. Like it's very confusing. I don't know what exactly happens, but Katrina Allen at her best is a consistent golfer and plays a game kind of similar to what Kristen does when she wins well, where she just kind of hits fairways, throws simple shots. I will say Kat scrambled a few times pretty well. But yeah, when her putt is on, it's very serviceable.
Well, yeah, I mean the past several years, I've always called
she's best thrower usually.
Exactly, that's what I've always said. Katrina Allen's the best thrower of the disc, and I got sick of saying it almost.
Yeah,
but that was the truth. This year we haven't seen that, but that has become Kristen Tatar, where like if you throw the disc well enough and you give yourself enough looks at birdies, you can win or put yourself in contention week in and week out. And let's call it what it was too. Kristen Tatar still finished in second. She still was only 3 strokes off the lead, and she had a chance at winning. She's still having one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen. And she's headed back home to Europe. And she's going to head back home for a few days and then play in Europe for a while.
Big momentum for Kat though to like get over the hump again. Like getting a second win for her now was really important, and I think that will really give her a boost because like. I'm assuming she's going to be in Europe.
Yes, I think she said she was headed to Norway Saturday.
Yeah, so like that's a big time to get a win. Right heading into the major, and you can flip your season around really quick. I mean, now she has 2 Elite Series wins on the year, which is already in a field that's dealing with Kristen. That's something.
Yes,
and if she can pile a major on top of it, there's a season for you.
Well, here's what's fascinating
it
is
doesn't take much. It takes a few good weekends out of the year, and you can have a good Pro Tour season these days. It's very true.
We haven't talked about Kat pretty much. As I say, we haven't talked about Katrina Allen pretty much at all this year.
Yeah.
We talked about her when she won LVC, but then since then, I mean, she came in second at Open in Austin. A lot of like outside the top 10s. She came in third at Champions Cup, but like 22nd at Beaver State, 11th at OTB, 11th at Jonesboro, 18th at Music City, 9th at Portland. Like she's been up and down all year, but then a win at the Preserve, and here she is second in the Pro Tour standings.
Yeah, and only moved up 2 spots. It's that just shows you the dominance of Kristen Tatar this year. That second place in the Pro Tour standings, you haven't seen a ton of this year.
Yeah.
Like you have a win sandwich with a whole lot of not much in between, and that just shows you how dominant Kristen. I mean, it's pretty hilarious because like you go down to third place, Missy Gannon. 0 wins this year, I believe. And hasn't. I mean, she's had some great like top 5s, but it's just crazy how dominant Kristen Tatar has been. Because if you take Kristen Tatar out of this field, all of a sudden everybody's bunched up in there, and you've got all these different winners. I mean, who knows? She's just a world beater right now. It's totally what Paul Macbeth and Ricky were doing to the MPO field all those years, where it was like, yeah, this field would be like real interesting if they weren't there.
I forgot to do this before we got into results. We got caught up in the Natalie Ryan stuff. I was going to have you close your eyes and guess the year and be like, Katrina Allen, Paul Macbeth, and Ricky Wysocki just won a disc golf tournament on the same day. Guess the year.
Oh, yeah.
Because it just happened to
yeah.
This does not feel like 2023.
It is. That is
crazy. Paul,
crazy.
Ricky, and Kat back on top. Paul obviously winning in Europe. But the other thing that's interesting with the Pro Tour standings, Paige Pierce in 11th right now.
Yeah. Well, she's
600 points away from Kristen Tatar.
She was a Bonnaroo, man.
Yeah, I mean, between that, she won the Open at Austin. She won the OTB Open, and then she just hasn't. She hasn't really played much, and when she has like 2 finishes outside the top 25.
It's going to be interesting to watch the majors this year because the majors are going to do a lot of deciding in that FPO field on like what the narrative is at the end of the year. Because like right now, the narrative is just this Kristen dominance. If Kristen, like we got now, obviously we have like technically 4 majors left for women because, you know, major in our hearts.
I don't count U.S. women's.
Oh, so so only
Throw Pink just takes over
okay.
U.S. women's.
Oh, okay, that's our play. So, you know, we have 3 majors left. So, like, if Kristen only takes 1 out of 3, for example, then there's some opportunity for other people. But if Kristen takes like 2 out of those 3, then like there's just no.
If Kristen wins European and Worlds,
it's so hard to believe that Kristen won't win Worlds this year. It's like almost because they'll play 5 rounds. Like it's almost impossible to believe that Kristen won't win.
Paige typically does pretty well at GMC.
Vermont, yeah.
But that's the only
5 rounds. Like I'd have to think she's going to win in Europe and at the last year she lost at Europe to Paige.
Yeah. Evelina was the one that was popping off in Europe last year. Which, speaking of Evelina, someone actually brought this to my attention. Where the heck has Evelina and Henna been?
They're gone.
So I thought like they went back to Europe. Mm-hmm. I thought they were at least playing in Europe. No, they played Jonesboro end of April.
They deuced out.
No events at all until the PCS Open in next weekend or 2 weekends.
Yeah, it's interesting.
What just happened?
Just took a big old break. Yeah, very interesting. They kind of just deuced out.
Yeah, I don't know what exactly. That doesn't make sense to me. But anyways, they'll be back at PCS. On the MPO side, we had Ricky Wysocki back on top, taking it down. His first Elite Series win of the year. He had a silver event win earlier, I believe the Cascade. Mm-hmm. And then Cole Redallen and Calvin Heimberg tied for second. Ricky looked like himself out there this weekend.
This was old Rick.
He apparently, his wrist was flaring up a little bit going into the final round. He said he took some ibuprofen and stuff. But he was raptor legging all over the place. He was making some big time putts when he needed to. Yeah. Notably, hole, I believe it was 12 and 16 were the 2 big outside the circle putts.
Made a few bombs.
And he was dropping them on Calvin, who couldn't make a putt to save his life, it felt like.
Yeah, and still shot pretty well that final round. Calvin's tournament really comes down to is he just didn't score enough in round 1. And if you're playing a 3-round event and you have a bad round or a slow round, because he wasn't really making bogey, he just wasn't scoring.
Yeah.
And it was a weird round too, because he was like just landing like just outside of C1 a lot and just not making those putts. He just didn't score. So if you do that, you have a really high uphill climb, and he almost, got back into it. But yeah, props to Ricky. He shut it down. He had a lot of guys chasing. You had Eagle and Cole Redallen shooting really hot that final round. eagle just coming out of nowhere. And then, and Cole Redallen, who has that kind of potential, was really pushing the narrative. And Rick, had a slow start to the round, but then some clutch putting, some really important. Sometimes your clutchest putts are not those putts that are like for the win, but they're those putts where the guy who's chasing you just made birdie or is going to make birdie, and you've got to make a tough putt or a tough throw to make sure that you don't give him any more momentum. You just like hold place with him, and that's what he was doing. He was just holding off Calvin, and it got really close too. It was one stroke or
somewhere in there,
1 to 2 strokes. Like it was like all of a sudden, look at the leaderboard, and it was really bunched in, and he was able to separate again.
He just kept slamming the door in Calvin's face.
Exactly. Yeah. Calvin would show up, slam the door every time, and that takes a lot. That was old Rick. That's the Rick that we know. And man, with his injuries this year, it's just going to be like, it's going to be a guessing game as to when that Rick shows up. But what we've seen now is when Ricky is at his best, he is still dominant. He can still beat anybody. And I think that we probably needed that reminder. And also that Ricky is the real deal in winning time. Like,
yes.
Ricky down the stretch is a guy who's going to beat you.
I think that's the key here is hurt or not hurt. Like,
he's clutch.
Injured or not, if you get Ricky in contention, he's
win.
finishing. He's winning.
He's going to win.
Because the thing is, like, I don't think, from what I understood, the first few rounds his wrist wasn't really bothering him.
Yeah.
But once he gets to the final round and he's in the lead, he's in contention, that wrist was not stopping him.
Yeah.
Like,
it can take a lot.
Yeah, I think that if Rick, how he was describing it going into the final round, I think had Rick been in like 25th to 30th, he probably would have been like, let me rest, let me get to Europe and just be safe. Because he wants to get to the majors healthy, because that's a key. If Ricky picks up a major or two, his whole season narrative, we're going to forget that he missed so much.
Oh, yeah. Certainly.
So I think had he been so far out of contention, like that might have been something, and it probably would have been a wise thing had he been out of contention to say, let me rest up. But you get Rick in contention, and I think that there was nothing stopping him.
Yeah.
He was not going to let. And what was interesting is he didn't come out the gates hot, but fortunately for him, neither did anyone else.
They were saying
other cards did, but
nobody on that card did.
Yeah.
There was like that. It was that lead card like fatigue or that lead card like nerviness where sometimes those chase cards can catch up. They weren't quite close enough, but ultimately, the beginning of that round is when somebody had to make their move and nobody could. But even if they would have, Ricky is one of the few players where if you give him 4 shots going into the final day, you see that stat pop up in front of other people's names, and you're like, yeah, but look who's behind them. Ricky is not that guy. Like Ricky, you give Ricky 4 shots, he's probably going to win.
What's funny is like I fully agree with that statement. Now you give me that statement in anything pre-2020, and I'm saying, yeah, but if Paul's the one behind him, no shot Ricky holds on. Because there was a period where like
Paul was like the chase down artist.
Yeah, like there was a period where Ricky's got 6 shots on Paul at the European Open, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like who cares? Paul's probably gonna win by 3.
Yeah.
Is what it felt like. But Ricky, I feel like Ricky over time has developed his game. It's a shame that he has the Lyme disease flare-ups, because I think he could be having a Calvin-esque season.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky's game has continued to develop, and he's continued just to put his head down and work on and off the course to the point that, like, when Ricky's out there at 100% competing at his best, there is probably no one in the world that can beat him. Yeah, to be completely honest.
He absolutely could be a world number 1. Well, according to UDisc,
he is the world number 1.
Which is hilarious.
Not true. But because what you have to look at is, it looked really weird out there. Calvin missed some putts that it looked like I was putting for him at times. Like they were some shorties that he was missing.
Yeah.
He was not confident on the putting green.
Been weird.
The dude finished in second place, a few strokes off the lead, and still shot 9 under the final round with a 50% C1X the final round and 0% C2. Still got to 9 under.
He hits fairways, man.
Calvin,
and he parks baskets.
Calvin is not a flashy player. He's not going to go out there and blow your mind. In person, he will, because he throws far.
Yeah.
But on coverage, he just kind of just does his thing, and the next thing you know, you're like I literally watched it. I was watching his round, and I was like, Calvin kind of sucks today. And I was like, he's literally 9 under. Yeah. Like what am I saying? He sucks today.
He gets it done.
Like he gets the job done. And obviously, we've seen this out of Calvin a few times where he just can't quite close the deal. He couldn't quite make the comeback happen.
Yeah.
But had his putt been on, the putts that he missed, he would have won by 1, I believe, or tied Ricky, one of the two.
Calvin's one of those players. I think he's been like this a lot of his career, but especially these days, is definitely a victim of he gets attached that like sometimes can't win narrative. I think less these days than he used to, but he gets that narrative because he's in contention every week.
He puts himself in contention every week.
So, like, it's like you just don't win every week. That's just how it is. But he does win.
It's a two-sided coin or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
he knows how to win, but he does get that narrative because, like you're saying, he finishes in top 3 probably more than anyone else.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you're constantly...
His average finish is 3.5 this year. It's insane.
When you're constantly in that position where you could win, then it feels like you never win.
Exactly.
Because, you're going to lose more than you win unless you're Christian Tatar right now. Another Twitter narrative that was happening that I don't know if I believe it or not anymore. I was team 100%. This course has no scoring separation. This course needs to be harder. But then people started replying to me and like poking that ideology or whatever you want to call it. And I started looking into it more. Mm-hmm. Does this course actually have no scoring separation?
The Preserve is an interesting course. It's one of those courses that maybe appears as something that it isn't. I do think it needs more OB. I feel like there's probably a little bit of a lack. You don't really see a lot of bogeys. It's a complicated argument because I do think that a lot of courses in disc golf lack, and it literally is very simple. It comes down to OB, whether courses have enough or they don't, because disc golfers are way too good at disc golf that if you don't give them any OB, they just don't take bogeys. Really.
Yeah,
like you
true.
Look and you see all this blue on the scorecard. Putting is too easy, and that's why.
Let me look at course stats here.
Because putting in disc golf is easy, and the guys that are the best don't miss inside of 35, 40 feet really very often. They save their pars so often, and therefore that's where the separation happens. Like, there's a par to birdie separation, but really you want to have those par to bogey possibilities on a lot more holes. That's why some of the best holes in disc golf often end being reachable par 5s because you have a 2-stroke window there, that eagle to par
and if you have the right
window.
type of OB, you have an eagle to bogey window.
Exactly. So that's the kind of separation I'd like to see more of. I think the Preserve doesn't quite have enough. Now, I will say this. Our field is deep enough, at least I would say both. I mean, definitely MPO, but really both fields are deep enough that the best players in the world, we have enough good players in the world, and their shot-making ability is good enough that obviously you look at that leaderboard at the end of the day and you see the best names.
Yeah.
There's a few kind of exceptions, but you see a leaderboard that looks like any other.
It looks like every leaderboard we've seen this year.
Right.
Almost looks more chalky than every leaderboard we've seen this year.
It looks pretty standard. And so I don't, and here's my other thing is I'm okay with there being variety. For instance, on the PGA Tour, they just played the Rocket Mortgage, and the winner finished, I think Ricky finished, they all went into that playoff at 25 under over 4 rounds, which for golf is pretty significant under par, and sometimes it gets even more. And I'm okay with there being a few events per year that are a little more of a shootout, a little more, but I mean, that would, like, the winner finishing at 37 isn't even that crazy. I think my biggest qualm though is just like, I don't mind shootout type golf a few times a year, like to keep things fresh. Like I think we should have, but I think we don't have enough of the courses that are like really demanding. Your better rounds are going to be like 3, 4, or 5 under par. Like I think we need to mix it up a little bit more, but it's a tricky one because I also think that disc golf, like, because of the nature of putting in disc golf and the fact that you only are interacting with your lie based on what's in front of you, not what's on the ground, like disc golf will always be different as far as how it relates to par and how courses are managed and whatnot. And really the only way we can complicate things is by, I think you could do more with the greens, and then you got to tighten OB. So I think the Preserve could use a little bit of tweaking potentially to add some more bogey potential, because like ultimately that just makes for more exciting, more complex disc golf when guys can go out of bounds. And there's some more decisions to be made, but the event was still fine. Honestly, my whole thing with the Preserve course is like it's dead every year. That's kind of upsetting.
Yeah,
like the whole property is.
It doesn't look great.
Yeah, it's like the shape of the property is like pretty nice, and then like everything is dead, and it's like.
Well, they also so my original qualm with the Preserve was, I think, a fake qualm, because I thought that the course was too soft, and I felt like the scoring separation didn't exist.
I felt more like that in previous years.
That is true. I think this year what has happened is the field is so deep that it's eliminated that scoring separation even on hard courses.
There's just not randoms anymore.
That's what I'm saying. On hard courses, like what it used to happen.
There's like 30 guys that are just like very recognizable and serious contenders.
Yeah, because so what used to happen was you had your guys, 5 to 10 guys, You go to a hard course, those are the guys that are going to compete. Those are the best disc golfers in the world. Yeah. That doesn't exist anymore. Like you said, there's now like 20 to 30. Like if I look at this leaderboard, if we do this last year, Cole Redolin popping up, heck, even Double G, Andrew Presnell, Alden Harris being all these guys in the top 10, that probably would have been like, yeah, what the frick?
It's
like,
not shocking anymore.
But that's a normal leaderboard.
Yeah, because like these guys are all ranked in like the top 20 to 30. Like these are all
like a top 30
players.
A top 30 player shooting up and getting a top 5 doesn't mean it, even outside the top 30. I think Double G's outside the top 30, shooting up and getting top 5. My jaw's not on the floor anymore.
Yeah.
I think we've become conditioned this year, and it's a better form of disc golf to there being way more people that could win every week, so that this tournament fits the bill like every other week. Now, what this tournament I do think lacks is you don't see too many big numbers.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
And so I think what it does is when someone's down, it is really hard for them to come out of the hole.
Or what I don't want personally is you're going into that press conference and all the guys that were beneath Ricky by 4 shots were basically like, yeah, I basically have to do something incredible and shoot 17 under or 16 under today. And like, I don't really think that, like, that's cool when somebody does that. And like that's fun and all, but I don't really think that that's the style of golf I would like to see. I'd like to see a guy just like know that, hey, if I put up a good number, a guy could take a few untimely birdies and I get back into it.
You knew going into the final round, you knew, almost didn't happen, but it did. Ricky was gonna shoot 8 to 10 under at least. Yeah, you knew that was gonna happen.
Yeah.
So if you're 4 strokes back, you're like, I have to shoot 12 plus. Realistically, you had to shoot 14 under. Calvin to tie Ricky was gonna have to shoot 15 under to tie him. Is what it would. And he knew that going into the final round. I think that is what the preserve.
It almost makes it a little predictable, maybe.
Yeah, it almost gets where there's no room to like. Ricky was not going to go out there and shoot 5 under.
Yeah,
that final round. That was not going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
Is that the worst thing in the world? No, to be completely honest with you, because it does lead to an exciting finish, and it's not like we're doing this at Memorial where he's going to shoot 15 under because they're all par 3s. He's throwing hyzers.
Right.
At least this, like, it was an interesting watch, but the course could definitely use some OB. You could also utilize there's still sand traps out there from where it used to be a golf course. Just make those hazards and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, especially on 18, I saw several guys landing in the sand traps. 18 was a very gettable eagle. You add those sand traps, it at least makes you think a little bit.
Yeah, what I have learned, and I know people hate the artificial OB, which I don't really completely get.
All OB is artificial.
Yeah, I've never thought that art, like the ropes and lines and whatnot, like,
because even those lakes that you think are natural, probably a man-made pond.
Yeah, so I understand that there are more pleasant ways to do it, but I have seen plenty of course design. There are a lot of ways to accomplish difficult shots without using that, and like one of the biggest examples is really tough greens, like that. When a lot of times when they play golf courses, the greens with all the different undulations and bunkers, even you take away the bunkers and you just add some like tricky slopes and like tighter landing areas, and it adds immediately, a little more difficulty. Like there are different ways to accomplish it. But yeah, I think I don't really know. I'd like to know, like, if you're Kale LaVisca and you're kind of like setting your layout, like what does he want out of that course? Because if I'm designing a course, I think it's tough too, because disc golfers are so conditioned to like low scoring disc golf, I should say, where they're getting all those birdies, that a lot of times the courses that I like on tour, I hear that the players hated it because there was OB. Like, and so like it's that tricky thing too, where if you're a course designer and you want to be liked, you almost have to make a course that guys are going to make a lot of birdies because that's what they want. But I'm starting to see more and more players. I think Presnell was tweeting about it, like kind of like chime in.
Yeah, I will say Presnell tweeted and people came after him like, would he rather be blah, blah, blah back? And then he put up a fire final round and got into the top 10. So props to Presnell. He backed up. He was able to back up what he was putting out there.
A lot of people just like, they just don't want to. And it's like a very much like two different type of spectator, because like I'm the type of spectator I would love it. I love USDGC. I think that course, you can shoot 14 under there and you can shoot 2 under. And like, it's so easy because it's just like you have to be on. And I realize that's an extreme example with the way they do OB, but I don't know. I've always preferred that. I would just like to see more orange on those scorecards. Like I'd like to see more ups and downs,
or at least opportunities for it, where like you get at least going into the final round, Ricky could shoot a 2-under.
Right.
That was not going to happen at the Preserve.
I don't think you should be able to look at a disc golf hole, or at least very many on a course, and be like, yeah, how in the world does Ricky take a bogey on this hole? Like, you'd have to do something so stupid. Like that does that make that a good hole? Because that's the one advantage that golf always has, is like, because putting is hard and because they can make the rough thick, you can have the easiest par 3 ever, but a guy hits it into the rough or into the bunker, and those greens are really fast. Well, yeah, of course bogey's in play. Automatically it's in play. If you on these courses, if you're 100 feet away from the basket and all that dude has to do is throw it within 35 feet, of course he's going to make a par. So like that's the obstacle there. And because of that, that's why we have to use OB. I mean, that's why I always say the baskets be a little smaller, because again, you'd start seeing a lot more orange on those scorecards. The baskets.
Well, the other thing someone mentioned on, I forget where it was, somewhere I saw it, but they were talking about like in golf, a lot of time guys will have a number, like I am not good enough at golf to have my number, but guys will want to hit it to it. Yeah, they could, hit it to, let's call it 80 yards, but they'd rather be at 120 or something, because they're more comfortable with a certain club.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist in disc golf. No. Because you want to get as close to the basket as possible, because I would rather be 100 feet and have a jump putt up than 150 feet and have a throw.
That would be fascinating.
But, that's something that maybe in disc golf that's not always going to be true, because personally, I would rather be either at 200 feet or 80 feet. I hate being at like the 120 feet in disc golf, because I hate the little touchy throw.
I think probably more disc golfers have a number than think they do, but they just don't. There's not enough. There's also not enough holes that demand that, because.
But that's what someone was saying, is like why this course felt kind of broken was there are a lot of holes that it's just chuck it as far up there as you can, and then you just have a chip up.
Right. Yeah, because like in disc golf, a lot of times you're focusing on hitting a line, and like that's more so the focus, whereas in golf you're focusing more so on hitting a number. But that would be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna like tear after the Preserve, because like ultimately I think they put on a pretty good event. Gallery seemed pretty solid.
Yeah,
they have some cool hole design. The whole disc golf course thing, what they want from it, it's gonna be an ongoing thing. But like our best players in the world are still winning, still competing. I'm not going to see huge issues until the leaderboards just look super, super random. Because like Andrew Presnell, I like Andrew Presnell, but ultimately it doesn't really matter what the course is. Andrew Presnell's not going to win, probably. So
I disagree. Who knows? Because we just saw Parker Welk win. We just saw
I didn't say
get on the
I didn't say
lead
can't
card.
win. I'm just saying like the best players in our world are still the ones that are most of the time winning.
Yes.
So like ultimately that's where it's tricky.
Last year or 2 years ago, I would have fully agreed with the statement. It's just modern day disc golf. I've now, after this season, I've become conditioned to like, I don't feel weird that Parker Welk won a few weeks ago. I didn't feel like it was DDO that he won. I didn't feel like it was broken.
That was still No, I didn't feel like it was broken that he won, but that was definitely an anomaly.
It was an anomaly, but like previously I'd have been like, there's got to be something wrong with this event for a rando to have been able to win.
No, now
I don't feel like there's something wrong with the event.
I don't know. I would just be curious to know like who is there, how much standard is there being set? Like I would love to see the Pro Tour, and obviously like the Pro Tour doesn't even regulate what baskets are being used at this point. So like I don't know. I don't think their energy is a ton on this sort of thing. I think a lot. Now, to be fair, we were at the Collegiate Nationals, and they had sent out scouts early to scope out the gorge, decide what needed to be changed. Like there's thought being put into that by the Pro Tour, but I'd be curious to know. And those are like Pro Tour employees. It's not even like it's just locals deciding how hard the course needs to be. But I would love to know, like, do they have a very like sound theory on like, this is what we want out of our tour? We want this many events to play this way, this many to play this way. This event should always play this way. Like, should the U.S. like, I don't know. I'd be curious to like sit down with them and be like, what are you guys looking for in a course? And like, are you trying to develop a consistent product? Certain events being this product, certain events being the other. Like, what do they want? And like, and it's also a very hard job because, I mean, the properties are just so different.
Yes. It'd be a very interesting
Sometimes
conversation.
It's hard to know how they're going to play.
It'd be a very interesting conversation to have. The other storyline that kind of came out of this, the final one from the Preserve, and then we'll move on, was Drew Gibson sent out this tweet, said, as sad as I am to say this, it's something that needs to happen. I'm done competing for the season until I feel 100% healthy again. I'm headed back to Phoenix to see a specialist and get my elbow back in a condition that I can confidently compete at the level I know I can.
That's a bummer.
So unsure when we will see Drew Gibson again. He could be done for the season.
That's a tough one too.
He could be back in a few weeks.
He already like avoids the sidearm throw, and I think he's cited, at least to me, like elbow issues with that. If you're having, I had elbow, like, I don't want to say issues, but definitely some, like, I played baseball growing up. If you've played baseball your whole life, you just have elbow pain. But for me, like, a backhand throw has never engaged that typical pain that you get in your elbow. A forehand, if I throw enough, it'll definitely start to hurt because there's just so much less stress on it. So if you're getting pain in a backhand throw from the elbow, I don't even know. Like, I don't know if that's your typical, like, ooh, you need Tommy John to fix that, or like what ligament that involves. But yeah, I don't know.
Drew does have a very slow to quick acceleration whip.
He does. Yeah, he does have a pretty laggy throw.
It could be something where a typical backhand doesn't put stress on it, but maybe his backhand does.
I don't know.
It'll be interesting.
That's going to be as much as like science as far as like finding the best form for disc golf. Immediately alongside or behind that is going to be science on what creates healthy form for disc golf as well. That's another thing that just hasn't really been studied a ton, is like what form are people like using that is just damaging their body, or even more so than probably your arm, your hips and your knees.
Hips are a big one.
Yeah, my hips get flexors, crushed.
I'll do like a hip flexor stretch.
Oh man,
and it like feels like there's a knife going in it. And I try to stretch out my hip flexors every day because they get lit up playing disc golf. So I try to stretch them every day.
I don't pivot hard enough.
And I'll like be doing the stretch and I'm like grimacing through the stretch, trying to just like get my hip loose. And my wife will be like, oh, like, you know, I feel like I'm kind of tight there. Let me try. And she'll do it, and she can't feel a stretch doing the stretch I'm doing. I'm like, you're more advanced than me. Yeah, you need to get to a different stretch.
My hips are trash.
My hips don't lie. Trevor's Trivia, fan favorite segment. Let's hop into it. What do you got this week, Trevor?
All right, so we're gonna test some of your Innova knowledge today.
I know a lot.
I was on their site because I was looking at they did this whole video about their rebranding and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. And I was the designer they used.
Not true.
Not a true statement. Imagine if I was, and you're like telling me how much you don't like the new stamp and stuff, and I'm just like internally crying.
Their new logo, I don't really have a problem with that much. Like, I don't think it's great. It's whatever. It's really, I don't love just like the.
I don't like if the star stamps, the new like robot and all that crap is the stock star stamp. That will upset me.
I like the KC Pro and R Pro iterations.
Those look great.
Fantastic. Really,
I like the Champ too. The new star, we'll have to see.
It just bores me a little bit. All right, so what we're going to do is I've got descriptions of 6 discs from their website. I'm obviously going to cut out the name. I try to pick some that are like not like this is the flatter version of the mid-range you always love, like that, like obvious.
Yeah, that's a makeup.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got 6 of them here. I think some of them you'll definitely get, and some of them will be a little bit trickier, and we'll see how many you can get here. Okay. The blank is our original professional level fairway driver. It ushered in a new era for distance and reliability. The blank's superior speed and predictable flight characteristics let you make confident and accurate long-range power shots. The blank's high-speed turn is excellent for power turnover shots.
It's got to be the Eagle.
Correct. Yeah. That's probably the easiest one, but there's definitely some words in there that are a little like old school.
Yeah.
The way they talk about it, but the original professional level fairway, yeah. All right. That was the easiest one.
Heck yeah. Good I didn't miss that one.
The Innova blank was developed to go straight and far effortlessly. With blank's gentle turn and unmatched glide, tightly wooded fairways feel open and attackable. When another fairway driver would fade and drop, blank holds on the line of release and carries. Great for standstill and low ceiling shots that still need to get distance. Blank also makes an exceptional roller disc even when new.
Leopard.
No.
Dang it. Do I keep guessing?
You can keep guessing. I'll give you a couple guesses.
See, I don't know if they're either going to be like way off or close, because the other one that could be close to this is like Roadrunner.
Definitely pandering to the beginners with this description. It's pretty like, if it were you and I, the description would be a lot more extreme of what it does.
It could be like the It.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like it starts out, it does until they get to a roller disc. Even when new, you wouldn't really, because they're talking about like gentle turn and unmatched glide.
Yeah.
It's not gentle when somebody with further than 350
That's why I was
feet
thinking leopard. Like that's how they would.
I wouldn't. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. All right, 1 for 2.
Dang it. it.
The blank is an easy-to-throw, very long-range driver for a wide variety of players. A mild high-speed turn puts the blank in glide mode, which, along with its high aerodynamic speed, give it incredible distance. I think it gives it. The low-speed fade is also mild, which makes it easy to keep on the fairway. The blank is similar to our popular turn, but faster and slightly more high-speed stable.
Strike.
Got it.
Yeah, I was thinking
Nice.
strike the whole time, but I was worried that it might be like their new Charger because they described that disc like my dream disc, and it was way more stable than I thought it was going to be.
All right, 2 for 3. That was a good one. This would be a good one too. The blank is a small diameter putter with a straight flight. The blank is especially good for long range putts and go for shots. That's an interesting term.
There you go.
It has a flight similar to our AVR putting approach, but has less low speed fade and a little more range. The nice thing about this disc, besides the improved grip, is that it holds the line for a long time.
So it's got to be in like R Pro or something. I'm going dart.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that last line there.
The whole time I was trying to think if the dart was a smaller profile or
Yeah,
not.
it is a little bit. Dart's a pretty sick disc. All right.
3 for 4.
3 for 4. That's pretty good. The blank is a very reliable, overstable mid-range disc with a predictable finish. The blank delivers pinpoint accuracy for shorter drives and approach shots, even in windy conditions. This is a great disc for mid-range shots, especially for players who need to control their power and increase their accuracy.
Toro. Dang it. I mean, is it?
I don't think the Toro is considered a mid-range.
I did. That's what I thought you were trying to throw me off with. Because like if you just take out the word mid-range, it sounds like a Toro.
It does.
Because I don't know. I mean, I would consider it a putt and approach, but it's a 4-speed. So then are we going rock? Surely they would go more
Come
with
on,
history of
Hunter.
that.
You know this.
Gator?
Yes.
Okay.
The Gator. People forget about the Gator. Clearly.
Yeah.
The Toro is a fair guess, but yeah, I think they consider it a putter. All right, last one. This one.
They probably would use the word new a lot more in the Toro.
I think, yeah, probably. A great performing disc that can take and hold the angle of release. Turnover shots stay turned over and hyzer shots stay hyzer. Excellent for staying on narrow fairways and threading through forests.
TL.
I'll give you a hint because this one's really vague. This one is a mid-range.
Oh. Well, shoot. The J. Tomako 3.
It's a Mako.
Okay.
That was a pretty vague one.
Well, dang it.
3 for 6. Not
Kinda
bad.
knew it.
It's impressive you got some of those. That was difficult.
All right, we're going to skip the European Open announcement thing. Basically, they're holding post-produce only for 16 days instead of 30 days, but they're still, you'll only be able to watch European Open on DGN and even post-produce coverage. And then 16 days later, post-produce will be released on Jomez and MDG Media, something that the European Open has done previously, but it was a 30-day hold. Now it's only 16. All right, world rankings update.
Power rankings
update. Grip Lock power rankings.
Universe
It has
rankings.
been a minute. So where they currently sit: Calvin 1, Gannon 2, Isaac 3, Eagle 4, Simon 5, Kyle 6, James Proctor 7, AB 8, Ricky 9, Ezra 10.
This is going to be...
I don't know what this was
baby.
through.
Buckle up. Well,
Calvin says 1.
Okay.
in my opinion.
Well, yeah, considering where we had Rick... Yeah, I mean, but I think Rick is going to jump pretty handily, probably like third.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think we got to go Stat Mando and go Ricky to. Let's go Ricky to Gannon to begin it off with.
If you go Ricky to Calvin is 6-1 against him this year.
Yeah, no, Calvin is head and shoulders above the field.
Ricky's gonna be a tricky one though.
We're just gonna go back.
He's had a pretty good average finish, but he's taken some. Like if you were a player that's living in the top 5,
we're gonna go April on because obviously we want recency bias to be there.
Of course.
And we're gonna go Ricky.
One of these days we're gonna develop, like
Gannon.
we're gonna like actually write an algorithm for this. Although I think that would defeat the purpose.
So Gannon's 4-3-1 against Ricky in that time frame.
But doesn't have a win in that time frame, or has one
Gannon won Des Moines.
fake win.
Well, it's only 2 rounds. He also won the Blue Ridge Championship, which is silver. Also a fake win because Ricky also has a silver.
I would say you give Rick the slight edge, but it's very close. Like Gannon holds right beneath him probably.
Ricky has beat Gannon by 11 strokes during that time frame.
Yeah. And he just won. Like I'm okay with Ricky sitting.
Okay, so we go Ricky 2. We'll try to go Ricky to Isaac Robinson just to make sure.
Yeah, I'm okay with, like, he did just win. I'm okay with having the slight edge.
Ricky's 5-3 against Isaac. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're good there.
Rick's
so
been
Ricky
sneaky
gets
decent.
cut
I'm okay.
from 9th
I'm okay
and
with
gets put into 2nd.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. But I think Gannon is right there. He's still right there.
Gannon's there. Isaac stay 4 probably. Should we go Isaac to Eagle just to see? Because Eagle has come back. Compare them 3, and 1. So they're pretty knotted up. They both have 1 win during that time frame. What did Eagle? Oh, Eagle won Beaver State. Isaac won Champions Cup, a major. So I think Isaac's got to have the win. Isaac also, Eagle finishing 55th at OTB. Isaac's worth finish is 31st.
As of recent, Eagle has been better the last 3 events.
Yes, the last 3. Eagle's trending up. Isaac's neutral, maybe even trending down. But I think for right now, we're fine to leave Isaac, Eagle. Next, we have Simon.
Simon's going to be a tricky one.
I think let's go Simon to Proctor really quick.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
And just see where that sits us. Proctor's 4 and 3 against Simon during this time frame. Simon does have 1 win, which is at Music City, but it was the earliest you could possibly have.
Since Simon won that, his finishes have been less than inspiring.
Yes.
Whereas Proctor has been much more consistent.
So Proctor, we're going to ignore Music City. We're going to go since Music City. Proctor's went 36th, 11th, 5th, or 6th, 5th, 38th, 5th. Simon's went 13th, 23rd, 51st, 17th, 7th, 17th.
It's still
neither
close.
are great.
Yeah. I'd be okay with giving Proctor the slight edge. But I mean it doesn't, you don't really have to budge.
Well, but so
really,
that would jump him Kyle Klein. So let's go Kyle Klein to Simon.
Kyle Klein, I feel like he's doing a little bit better. Maybe
Kyle Klein is worse than Simon.
2 and 3
in that time range.
Oh gosh.
Oh, Kyle
Never
Klein.
Mind. He's been
okay.
trash.
So Proctor's got to at least jump Klein. Let's just double check that.
Dang, dude. This is what's wrong with this ELO system is like Kyle Klein hasn't really been skidding, so I've been just misled.
So they're 3 and 3 in that time frame.
We got a whole bunch of average Schmo Joes. We might need to start looking for some new blood.
I think James Proctor can jump Kyle Klein right now.
We're gonna have to look at like you know who's not in right now that probably needs to get back in is Matty O.
You know who else is not in? Aaron Gossage.
And the Goose Man. But Matty O for sure is going to
let's just go Matty O versus Proctor.
Like there's no way. He's been good over the last few events. There's no way he doesn't jump.
He's 3 and 2 against James Proctor.
He's for sure.
Well, he hasn't been that good, Trevor.
What the heck?
Since April 30th, 24th, 5th, 18th, 23rd.
Never mind, I'm capping. He hasn't been that good.
But he hasn't been better than Proctor
though. So
okay.
We just got a whole bunch of average Joe Schmo going on.
And Proctor just jumped Kyle Klein, so that means Matty O's been better than Kyle Klein. Has Matty O been better than AB?
No, AB's actually been good.
AB need to move up.
AB's been good.
3 and 2.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
So AB's
been pretty sneaky.
AB, we might need to look at jumping higher.
We haven't updated this since Ham has won either, I don't think.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's gonna get just buckle in. It's gonna get dicey.
Okay. Kyle Klein, I think, is gonna end up being outside top 10.
God dang.
Delete it.
We're gonna have to look at Ezra
James
as well.
Proctor, very possible outside top 10.
Look at Ezra versus Hamas because he would technically be on the back end. I mean, Hamas just had a win, so it'd be pretty tough for him not to sneak into the top 10. 2, 3, and 2.
So since April,
Hamas has been pretty good.
Hamas has won 11th, 44th, 13th, 1st, 72nd, 18th, 101st.
What the heck? Okay, well, he must have died or something.
Did he DNF at the preserve?
There's no way he didn't.
He did not.
Oh my gosh, he actually did that.
He just shot 6 under for the event.
Okay, you're automatically out of the top 10.
Yeah, Hamas is gone.
You can't take 101st. I don't care if you just won.
Yeah, I don't understand what just happened, but
that's
surely
crazy.
There's an injury somewhere in there.
That's
but
crazy, dude.
He's gone.
I gotta have to check the Instagram on that one.
All right,
there must be an explanation.
I think Matty O. Okay, let's go AB.
Whoops.
Did I already do AB to Matty O?
No.
AB is better than Matty O. So I think we can put. And Matty O, I believe, was better than Aderhold.
Hamas just posted they had an ace on the pond hole.
Aderhold's better than Matty O. So I think we put Matty O at 10th, just so that we know he's in here.
Just so we know.
Matty O. AB, we need to compare to Eagle McMahon and see where we're at there. Barella to McMahon. Okay, Eagle's better than AB. Let's go Barella to Simon.
He's got to be better.
AB is smoking Simon.
Yeah.
Okay, so AB belongs
AB's a dog,
in
dude.
6th.
If none of these schmoes are winning anything, and the guys that are winning are taking 100th at the next event, then AB has been pretty good for a guy that can't win.
Who else were we saying? The Goose Man.
The Goose Man.
Let's go Goose Man to AB.
Who kind of fell off a little bit, I think, after basically like he was a goated and then DDO hit and he was supposed to be goated and he wasn't.
Okay, AB better. Let's go Goose Man to Simon.
Lizoot.
Simon better.
Okay.
So Goose Man to Proctor.
I'm starting to think Gossage just had like 2 good tournaments.
I think he did. Proctor better. Okay.
Yeah.
Aaron Gossage outside the top 10. Anyone else we're missing?
I don't know.
We have Calvin 1, Ricky 2, Gannon 3, Isaac 4, Eagle 5, AB 6, Simon 7. Should we look at Ezra Robinson?
Oh, dude, yeah, he's been sneaky lately. He has been sneaky.
Compare him to Aderhold real quick.
Yeah,
They're 3-3. Ezra versus, and you know what I learned? Ezra Robinson is Isaac's younger brother. I thought he was his older brother.
I also thought that.
No, he's apparently his younger brother.
Okay,
so
that does change what I think about him in the power rankings.
He is tied with Ezra Aderhold. Is he better than Matty O? We might have 2 brothers in the top 10.
The other guy that I feel like is
he's not better than Matty O right now.
The other guy that's probably would be in there if he was in the U.S. right now is Antela. I feel like Antela's been pretty good lately, but he's just not.
Okay, so Ezra Robinson tied with Ezra Aderhold, but is doing worse than Matty O or James Proctor, head to head.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting
another one's
one.
Bradley Williams, who's over there.
Simon Lazat's also tied with Ezra Aderhold or Robinson. Ezra Robinson's an anomaly.
We might have to check on Alden. Let me see what Alden's been doing here. Ooh, he didn't play well in Des Moines, but previous to Des Moines, he is better than Simon. He's had some top 10s rattling off. Yeah, we might be sleeping on Alden.
Okay, let's go to Proctologist. Proctologist is absolutely giving it to Alden Harris.
Streaky players are so hard to factor into this because Alden's been pretty consistent. Simon's just so streaky.
Alden Harris versus Ezra Aderhold,
Hard not
please.
to be streaky in today's game.
They're tied. Let's just go to Matty O.
Nobody can beat Matty O, dude.
Alden Harris tied with Matty O. I think we give the edge to Alden Harris.
Do it.
I think we wrap that up there.
Okay.
Calvin, Ricky. So this is the top 10. Calvin 1, Ricky 2, Gannon 3, Isaac 4, Eagle 5, AB 6, Simon 7, Proctor 8, Aderhold 9, Alden Harris 10.
There you have it.
Okay, FPO. We currently have Kristen, Own, Paige, Kat, Merch, Sayananda.
I feel like low-key Ella and Hall and Hanley have both played well the last 3 events.
I wish I could just do head-to-head and not have to switch over to FPO.
That is weird.
I don't like that they're 2 different because I have to reset my dates. Okay, April.
Cat Merch has stayed relevant.
Cat Merch to Holland Handley.
Yeah, that's a good one to do. Love that start.
Cat Merch wins.
Okay, that's good news.
Okay, Cat Merch to Ella Hansen.
You know who hasn't been playing disc golf is Owen Scoggins.
Cat Merch wins. Cat Merch to Katrina Allen. Because Katrina Allen's not in our top 5 and just won. Katrina Allen wins. Okay.
So Cat needs to get it.
So Katrina Allen, welcome to the top 5. How high does she go versus Paige Pierce? Paige, the fierce Pierce. Katrina Allen beats her out.
I think we had last time we had updated this page just won.
Maybe we updated after OTB.
Something like that.
Katrina Allen is better than Paige Pierce right now. It's not even really close.
It's not really that crazy of a statement.
Okay, well, let's just go Katrina Allen to Owen Scoggins.
Owen hasn't been playing. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. When's the last time Owen played?
Well, we're going to find out.
Either that or she's just been living on the bottom of the leaderboard. Because,
Owen's 6-0 against her
when's
since
the last
April,
time she played?
June 1st. Portland Open. She came 3rd.
When she... Go down here. So she just missed...
She missed 2 events.
It just seems like so long.
Okay, so I think we go...
Maybe it was just 2 weeks in a row. I wanted to pick her in my top 3.
Katrina Allen. And then Sayananda's out of here.
I want Owen Scoggins to win.
We just need to see.
So bad. I want Owen Scoggins to win an event.
Does Cat Merch, Missy Gannon? I think that's the final comparison to
Missy's
look at.
been pretty good too lately.
Missy Gannon's better than Cat Merch. Final one, we need to go Valerie Mandujano versus Missy Gannon. Missy Gannon wins. Okay, so Missy Gannon, welcome to the top 5. Boom. Kristen Tatar 1, Owen Scoggins 2, Katrina Allen 3, Paige Pierce 4, Missy Gannon 5. That looks like a normal FPO top 5 again.
Yeah, it looks about right.
We're back to where it was a few years ago.
Yeah. Gosh, dude, Owen Scoggins.
All right, well, there you have it. That's Grip Locked. Pretty long episode, but hey, there's a lot to cover this week. Hopefully you enjoyed. No tournament this week. No Kansas City Wide Open, a little silver event going on.
Just a little
silver event. So yeah,
KC
no
Wide
events
Open.
this weekend. We'll recap that A tier when we're back in the booth next week. See you then.